Good morning. I hope everybody that listens is keeping well. Today, before getting out of the house, I stumbled upon this question: can government policy boost birth rates? And I was thinking a little bit about it as I was doing my morning walks. And the honest answer is no, because of the existence of government, birth rates are low. So if you want the birth rates to grow, you have to actually diminish government. It's not with more government policy, it's with less government policy. The answer. Government has become too big. Government is a cult, almost like a religion or a religious organization. If you analyze government, ideology, it's 100% a religion, a cult. And all religions and all cults are turned to collectivism. Collectivism elevates the collective and it diminishes the individual. When you diminish the individual, you're messing up with free will. For instance, the Soviet Union collapsed when people stopped participating. It's out of free will that these things function. It's out of people's free will. If people stop participating, then it collapses. And that's what's going on right now with the birth rates. People are just, it's not worth the trouble. I'm going to stop participating. And this is how cultures collapsed. It's not because some meteorite or some disease or some made up catastrophe, some, apocalyptic doomsday scenario. No, societies and cultures collapse because of demographics. Society becomes so polluted because becomes so toxic with collectivism, for instance, and politics that people just stop participating. Governments, they can help people, for instance, with housing. They can help them with maternity leave. They can help them with child care. They can help them with health care. They can help them with all of these socialist programs. And still, people will turn their backs and say, no, I don't want your help. Meddling in my life is making my life more difficult. You see, to sustain all of these programs, government needs what? Funds. And these funds are extracted from people. People are tired, overworked, stressed, in most of the times overeducated, or should I say, over indoctrinated. And above all, most people are sick with stress and malnourishment. Yes, they give everything they have to government. Relationships are pretty toxic nowadays because it's all about the collective. It's not about the individual. Men are individual, women are more turned into collective. It's true. In fact, in these past 60 years, everything's been socialist because women are in power since the sexual revolution and the, right to vote and all of those things. Do not get me wrong. It wasn't the right to vote because men didn't have the right to vote either. And what you mean by that? Because it's only in recent times that anyone that is a grown up can vote. 100 years ago, only people who had property could vote. People who own companies, those were the only ones who could vote. The rest of the population couldn't. And even there was, segregation between, different cultures. They didn't even let some cultures vote. So now, when you say a democracy, is the tyranny of the majority, for instance, that the 51% is ruling over the 49, even though they are wrong. They call it the tyranny of the majority. This is wrong because it assumes that everybody votes. Well, I think there's only like half of the population that votes. Most just ignores it because most have come to the conclusion that they're all the same. They put, a facade, a different puppet in front of you, but the puppeteers are all the same. So half, I think, stopped participating in that ritual. Or 50% then goes, and participates. And that out of these other 50%, 26 then will have a saying over the other 24. And this is not the tyranny of the majority, this is the tyranny of the minority. Just like in ancient Greece, when they had this concept of democracy, only people who have something at stake, like the owners of everything, could vote, meaning the less than 30% would have a saying in the votes. The 70 plus percent, they just went along with whatever they decided. And I think it's reality nowadays, simply because most, at least half, is not participating in their ritual. It's pointless. They're all the same. Besides, do you really think it is the vote that matters or the person counting the votes that matters? Because it's been observed that some of these votes are highly, highly questionable, especially when, voter ID no longer is required. So, anyway, it is because of the existence of this big government that actually people are not willing to participate anymore. Um, we have to roll back any of these social helps, social welfare, education, health. We have to roll them back and shrink, the government power. Governments have uh, overwhelming power over the individual and over economies. It's governments that creates crisis. It's governments that creates inflation. It's governments that mess up the banking system. It's governments. There are okay. Let me have a sip of coffee. Governments have become too big. In a toxic relationship, people just stop participating. I think it's only natural that the political struggle is between the most pathological individuals. It's like this French writer was saying, only the most pathological individuals go into politics, and it is a struggle power between them. It's true, only narcissists and psychopaths, want positions of power. And once they achieve power, they project their insanity over the whole world, eventually messing up with free will, right? When people are blocked from free will, society becomes stagnant and mediocre, you know. Now, I came across this concept of sublimation. You have to be very careful who you give your power to. Giving a bit of yourself to a person or to a collective, like a religion or an ideology or a government, when you give yourself, for instance, to the scrying devices, the smartphones, when people are doom scrolling, when you give yourself to fear, when you give yourself to attachments, desires, the sublimation of yourself, you are stretching yourself too much. You are stretching yourself. You are becoming too thin. It's you are overreaching. When people go into this sublimation state and they start overreaching, they forget the immediate self, the immediate what's at their proximity, and they start occupying their heads, for instance, what's going on the other side of the world. For instance, in some countries of Europe, right, they opened the borders, to anyone pretty much, and they are letting them, do whatever they want, even creating two-tier societies. And often I think to myself, is this remorse? Are they remorseful for what they did 20 years ago when they pretty much, bombed the Middle East? And now, they are remorseful, yes, and they are opening their borders and creating two-tier societies, like a punishment. Sometimes I wonder, because of sublimation, you see, because of sublimation, they are stretching themselves too much, and they think their society, can their socialist society can open their arms to the whole world, and help them out. They are stretching themselves too much. Well, this is not just going to result in collapse, because the other nations that see this, do you think they are going to let go of the past? No, they're going to open their jails. That's what they're going to do. The rampant criminality that the West is now unwilling to admit is the result. Another thing that governments will never admit is accountability. You see, they will never admit they were wrong. Because of their narcissism and pathology and psychopathy, they can't admit. They will always externalize guilt. You know, uh, I was going somewhere with this and I forgot. Yes, yes. They will never be accountable for the things they do. And they also imagine that they know that they are better at spending your money than they are. You know, when uh, monarchies was overturned around this place, it was Napoleonic wars that overthrew the monarchies. Napoleon was hired by the establishment, by the bankers, to overthrow monarchies because of the whole industrial revolution, and constitutional republics based on Freemasonry, based on the individual, was established. But these constitutional republics was quickly overrun by the collective. So from constitutional republic, it became a democracy, which is the tyranny of the minority, like I just explained or tried to explain, not the tyranny of the majority, because most people don't vote. The tyranny of the minority. From democracy, then they can't admit they were wrong. And from democracy, it goes to a socialist state. And then they triple down. From socialist, they go to communism. And they triple down again. They're constantly doubling down because they can't admit they were wrong. From a communist society, then they go into fascist society, and that's when everything collapses eventually. People just stop participating, and the population stops having children. They stop going to work. Men go their own way, women go their own way, because this regime, this group of people, they just can't admit they're wrong, have solidified their position between man and woman, basically. It is of the goal of these governments and religions and cults to take away from the individual everything they have. It's their purpose. Because the collective doesn't have a personality. It's like that analogy of legion, because legion is many. Right now, I'm missing a little bit the analogy, but it's, I didn't want to go there, but it's similar to that, Uh, so where was I? Because this collective government is messing up with free will, is messing up with the individual. That's why people are not participating. This has been happening since the 60s, to be honest. The movement kind of was thrown off balance with the Second and the First World War, because the movement started, honestly, after the French Revolution, this movement of collectivism. Um, it came back full strength um, around the 60s. That's when they was able to implement social, reforms like social welfare. That's the beginning of the end for the individual. In an individual society, for instance, it creates exclusivity because you're not sharing your stuff with anybody else. In a collective society, you share everything, even your wife. What's going on nowadays? It's just your turn when talking about relationships. It's just your turn. And everything is shared. And it's fine with women because they are polygamy anyway. Men are not polygamous. Men are monogamous because they want exclusivity. You see, it's because of that exclusivity that men, get up early in the morning and they do incredible things, you know, because when they return from doing those things, they have the exclusivity of the privacy of their home and the privacy and exclusivity of one woman. Of course, when you introduce government in the middle, and your children are not even yours anymore. If you don't go with the program, they take your children away from you and they turn your woman against you, because nowadays most divorces are started by women because they give them lots of benefits in divorce. So no wonder why society is collapsing. It's because of this, the tyranny of this system. I didn't want to go there. But sometimes, I mean, you have to say these things. Um, For instance, in the individual society, man, family will want exclusivity and to be at the top, and they would like, for instance, to have the best of everything, like the best house, the best car, the best garden. And then the neighbor will look at you and see you succeeding. They will be motivated to succeed as well. Look at how clean it is. Look how beautiful it is. I want also that. You see, this idea of exclusivity and privacy gives birth to to the opposite of mediocrity. I can't think about it right now. If it's social and everything is collective and everything is shared, including your woman and including your house, you're not going to pay much attention if it's clean, if it's nice, right? It's not yours anyway. This is what happens in these social, housing. People write in the walls and they pee in the walls. They don't care. Garbage just starts, accumulating. It's not mine anyway. So why should I care? That's the attitude, you know. So it's pretty common in socialist societies to see garbage just, accumulating. So anyway, the only thing I think a government could do to boost birth rates is to stop meddling in people's lives. That's the best thing government could do. We need less government. The answer is not more government, we need less. All right, I think I'm going to shut up now. Tell me what you guys think. Have a nice day.